Joining us tonight are Mark Ogden, senior writer at ESPN, and Jason Burt, chief football correspondent for the Telegraph. Evening to you both, gents. Let's quickly get to the first story of the night. Back page of the Times. We had 6 Premier League games, but again, it is Marcus Rashford who is leading the way in terms of the stories here. Bottom right-hand corner of the back page, Ten Hag's snub for Rashford. This by Paul Hurst. Marcus Rashford tried to placate Erik Ten Hag by offering to travel from Manchester to South Wales on Sunday morning to play against Newport County, but the manager rejected his proposal and told him to train at Carrington instead. How difficult is this situation? Divisive is it becoming, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, it's United's highest paid player, probably their biggest name player, I suppose the guy that is supposed to represent the club in terms of a homegrown player, but it's a really bad situation because we saw what happened with Jadon Sancho. Erik Ten Hag was very firm in that situation whereby he felt he wasn't doing what he was expected. Sancho didn't apologise, and look what happened now. We're told that Rashford has admitted responsibility for what happened last week. So I guess there's a pathway back, but I'm not surprised that he was told not to come to Newport on Sunday because, for one thing, his form hasn't been good enough. His form hasn't justified him, Erik Ten Hag dropping everything to make sure that Marcus Rashford gets in the team. So he had to, make a statement there, Ten Hag, and make sure that he showed that he was disciplining a star player. From what I think myself and Jason know, is that a lot of the players around United, around Rashford, aren't happy with the way, Rashford has been playing on the way that Rashford has kind of conducted himself recently. But, we don't know what's going on in Marcus Rashford's background. We don't know what's led to this, whether there are bigger issues at play. And we have to be careful in the sense that there might be issues that have led to this situation. It's not the first time this season that he's been, disciplined or questioned, we should say, by Erik Ten Hag. So I think we have to find out what the full picture is. But right now, Marcus Rashford is not in a good place on or off the pitch.
How much pressure on Rashford, Jason? How much pressure on Erik Ten Hag, given the sort of partial takeover of the INEOS group, and of course, Sir Jim Ratcliffe now being in charge of football operations?
Yeah, the timing is really bad for Erik Ten Hag. Obviously, he's just dealing with the Jadon Sancho situation, which I think has caused some concern with the INEOS people already, because that's a huge, valuable asset of the club who's gone out on loan. And obviously, it doesn't look like if Erik Ten Hag remains as Manchester United manager beyond this season, there's much of a future for Jadon Sancho at the club. And now they've got this even bigger problem to deal with an even more valuable asset in Marcus Rashford now being, obviously his behaviour being under scrutiny. We expect Rashford to be in the squad for the game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. I don't think he's going to be dealt with in quite the same way as Jadon Sancho was, but there are serious issues. And for Erik Ten Hag, when he is effectively on trial himself for his future, his job is in question, and understandably so. They've got new people who are going to be running the football side of the business. They're going to be scrutinising every aspect of the club, and that includes the manager, who obviously has seen a much more difficult campaign this season, underperforming and not doing as well as they did last year. So his position is under scrutiny. So this is an added problem that he really could have done without. And his handling of it is as I expected, but it's not necessarily doing Manchester United any favours, because it's just adding to the sense of, not exactly crisis, but the sense of, not really quite knowing what they're doing at the moment. And I think with obviously the changes that are coming, that doesn't help the manager.
Yeah, Mark, in this story by Paul Hurst that says here that Ten Hag's coaching staff's been unhappy with Rashford for a couple of months. One member voiced concern, saying that he was distant. How difficult is the picture here? I know that the Telegraph, Jason's paper, is reporting that United aim to hire a director of football before a purge. How complicated does it make the landscape at the moment?
I mean, look, the Rashford situation is the plain and simple fact is he's not playing well enough to justify the massive contract he got last year. He's not living up to his reputation. He's not doing what he should be doing. He's not playing well. So, he is quite a detached personality, Marcus Rashford. So if people at the club are saying he's distant, that is his personality. He's not the life and soul of the party, you'd say. He's a quiet boy, and he's a guy that doesn't really kind of go in for extravagant emotional gestures or anything like that. So if he is distant, that's really his character. But the distance is now affecting his game. He's looking like it's affecting him. He's not enjoying himself. He looks like he's not enjoying himself. That the fans are getting on his back. And all this is adding to the problem that Ten Hag's got. If you look at the start of this season, he would have gone into the start of this season with a front three of maybe, Rashford, Anthony and Jadon Sancho. And each of those players, for whatever reason, different reasons, has caused him a problem this season. And he's not handling any of them particularly well, I don't think. I think each situation, you could say that Ten Hag has been either too forceful or too forgiving in terms of lack of form in some players. So he's not handled it well, and he's brought the situation on himself, which gets back to the scenario that Jason flagged up about him being on trial with his new bosses, his INEOS bosses. Ten Hag isn't doing enough with results or performances to persuade his new bosses that he should stay. And now the way that he's handling his biggest name player is not going to help him either. Now, he needs Rashford to kind of deliver a little bit more, but like I said, we don't know what is really going on behind the scenes with Marcus Rashford. We have to kind of, I suppose, give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt in the sense that there might be stuff going on that we don't know about yet that might need more time on his side to deal with, but still, he's not playing well. And ultimately, as a footballer, he's not justifying his selection or his wages.
Erik Ten Hag has had Omar Barada come in, hasn't he, as chief executive, Jason? Let's get more on that piece from James Ducker in your paper then. United aim to hire director of football before purge. Some big names there, including Dan Ashworth of Newcastle mentioned. What do you think, or who do you think United can realistically target at the moment? How big a draw is the job?
That's a big question. I think the key development with James's story is the time frame. We're talking about weeks now before that appointment is going to be made. So INEOS are accelerating their plans. Obviously, they're still not quite ratified yet in terms of their involvement officially in the club, but they're not hanging around. They're getting on with it. So we expect that appointment to be made in the next couple of weeks, maybe even 3 or 4 weeks. So that's going to be quite significant, obviously, because that then drives forward the football side of the business. They've already got Omar Barada coming in as the chief executive for Manchester City. So they're not messing around here. They're sorting out the club as quickly as they possibly can. There will be a review that got undertaken by Sir Dave Brailsford, but at the same time, there are key areas that need to be examined. And clearly, the director of football, the CEO, the two key things that they've gone for straight away, and understandably so. You mentioned who they want. Well, I think top of their list would be Dan Ashworth at Newcastle United. Whether or not they can prize him out of Newcastle, I'm not quite sure. But with James's story, the way I take it, I think that they probably have their man and they have their person in place. There are other people who have been talked about, such as Paul Mitchell, who worked obviously previously in the Premier League at Tottenham Hotspur and has been at Monaco and various other clubs such as Leipzig. And also Julian Ward, who was at Liverpool, and Dougie Freedman at Crystal Palace. So they're the ones that we know about who've already worked in this country. I think beyond that, there are other candidates. So there's been quite a long list of people, including Andre Berti, who was at Atletico Madrid. But I think the number one target, I feel, would probably be Dan Ashworth. I'm not sure whether they can get him out of Newcastle, but I think he would be their number one target. But I think that the key to this story that James has written tonight is just how imminent the appointment will be.
Interesting stuff, yeah. And then the article also mentions Paolo Maldini of AC Milan. Mark, you're obviously covering Manchester United a lot. Who do you see coming in? Any sign of who it might be and how big is the job?
Well, it'll depend on, I mean, people talk about Dave Brailsford and what he's going to be involved with at United. And I've been told that his role is, he doesn't want to be a Clive Woodward figure where he's seen as being a front-facing figure. He wants to be a guy behind the scenes that identifies the best people for the big jobs. And as Jason says, Dan Ashford's got a proven track record now with England, with Brighton, with Newcastle. So United know that if you went after Dan Ashworth, what you're going to get is a proven track record. And United's fault over the last 10, 12 years has been that they have appointed people that haven't got a track record. They've appointed people either from within or people from outside the club that haven't been up to the job. Dan Ashworth is a grade A candidate. And, you know, Paul Mitchell has got a track record, probably not quite as outstanding as Dan Ashworth. But what I've been told is that INEOS are desperate to get people who are 9 out of 10 appointments rather than 6 out of 10. And United have had too many 6 out of 10s over the last 10 years. And that is what they're trying to do, just improve every aspect of the club. And if it's Dan Ashworth, if it's Julian Ward, if it's Paul Mitchell, if it's somebody that we don't know about yet, it'll be somebody who has done the job before, who's got a proven track record and can make United better and stop all these disastrous transfer windows that they've made a habit of having over the last few years.